Good evening, everyone. If we all could be in a seat, if we'd like to have a seat at the moment, we'd go ahead and get started. So thank you so much for being here this evening. Welcome to A Lineage of Care. I want to welcome you all to a special evening with two brilliant lights in the San Francisco Bay Area arts universe. Thank you for joining us. My name is Keisha Jones, and I'm the Public Engagement and Interpretation Coordinator here at MoAD. And before we begin, I'd like to tell you a little bit about the pieces of paper that are on your seat. So these QR codes contain a survey that is just one way that we, as a nonprofit entity, connect with you in the audience who come to see our programs. But it's a crucial and important way for us to hear what you have to say. It's a way for us to hear from you. You can tell us what you liked about what you saw this evening, what you'd like to see in the future, and how we can improve our offerings. Your feedback is one of the ways that we secure grant funding for these fantastic programs and events that we believe in and want you to enjoy. So please take these with you, and before your head hits the pillow tonight, take only 2 minutes to fill it out and share your thoughts with us. We truly appreciate your support. Our program this evening is one that I've personally been looking forward to, so let's not wait any longer to get into what we have here and what is going on this evening. So in celebration of our 20th anniversary exhibition, Continuum, MoAD Over Time, which you can see all around you in this salon, renowned artist Lava Thomas will be in conversation with Kijo Lee, MoAD's Chief of Curatorial Affairs, about the lineage of support that Black women in particular have provided her in and around MoAD throughout her career. Women who championed her work and helped advance her career, with one of its milestones being her first museum show, Beyond, at MoAD in 2014. Thomas has in turn paid forward her gratitude by mentoring younger artists who have gone on to exhibit at the museum as well. Together, Thomas and Lee will honor and pay tribute to those who have made it all possible, while looking ahead to the emerging artists and curators who will continue to shape the next generation at MoAD. So I'd like to take a minute to acknowledge our sponsors, Common Spirit Health, Gilead Sciences, Salesforce, Cadogan Tate, CSAA, and KHR McNeely Foundation for their tremendous support of our public programs. Let's talk about our guest tonight, Lava Thomas. Her work shapes public memory through large-scale drawings, portraiture, monuments, and site-specific installations. Working from civic, family, and historical archives, she renders Black life with precision and reverence, bringing forward lives and narratives that have shaped and continue to shape the American story. In fall 2024, the San Francisco Arts Commission unveiled Portrait of a Phenomenal Woman, a monument to honor Dr. Maya Angelou at the San Francisco Main Library. The 9-foot public sculpture marked the first monument dedicated to a Black woman in the city's civic art collection. Kijo Lee is Chief of Curatorial Affairs and Public Programs at the Museum of the African Diaspora, where she thinks with artists about Blackness, perception, cosmology, interior life, and the futures museums rarely know how to hold. With more than a decade in the field, her work lives at the intersection of curating, theory, and institution building, asking how exhibitions do intellectual work and how care can be designed, not just declared. Her recent projects include Unbound, Art, Blackness in the Universe, which you'll see here, and Liberatory Living, Protective Interiors and Radical Black Joy. Previously, she was Associate Curator of American Art at the Cleveland Museum of Art. She's the author of Perceptual Drift, Black Art and an Ethics of Looking, and has written for the Solomon R. Guggenheim Museum and holds dual MA and MPhil degrees in History of Art and African American Studies from Yale University. Please join me in welcoming Lava Thomas and Kijo Lee.
Thank you, Keisha, and I want to first thank our Department of Public and Academic Engagement for putting together this wonderful program. I want to thank you, Lava, for being in conversation with me, and to this beautiful audience for being here as well. I think we should just go go ahead and jump in.
Let's go.
I mean, if we're going to talk about Black women, let's talk about it. So, what I think, as Keisha mentioned, we're sitting in this space that is celebrating the 20 years that MoAD has been in existence. And Lava, you've been involved in MoAD not only as a presenter, but you come to programs, you help to encourage others to be in this space. And so I just wanted to open up with thinking about what MoAD itself as an institution has meant for you and your work, what you've been able to find here, and then we'll go into talking about some specific folks.
Okay. First, I want to thank all of you for being here tonight. This is a very busy weekend with fog and all of the events surrounding fog, parties, dinners, whatnot. But you chose to be here in community at MoAD, and this is truly my MoAD family. So why don't we give ourselves a hand for making the choice of being here with family tonight. MoAD is near and dear to my heart. I had the opportunity and privilege to be the first artist to have a solo exhibition here after MoAD's grand reopening in 2014, after MoAD changed its mission from being primarily an educational institution to one that supports contemporary artists and exhibits contemporary art of the African diaspora. It was thrilling. The support that I received, the visibility that I received, the love that I received was phenomenal. I was able to discuss themes that I couldn't comfortably discuss during my education. I went to UCLA and I also went to CCA when it was CCAC, which will soon be no longer, unfortunately.
Yes.
That's another story altogether. I was raised in a community of Southern women in Los Angeles. I was raised by my grandmother, my great-grandmother, my aunts, my grandmother's sisters. My mother was absent for most of my life, so I was raised by women who brought their knowledge, their fierceness, their ability to not just survive, but to thrive, to make a way out of no way, from Texas to Los Angeles. And I wanted to make work that reflected their lives, which was not really accepted when I was a student. So the opportunity to show at MoAD opened up a space for me to talk about their experiences, their lives in a way that I hadn't been able to do before. And I appreciate that. And from that grounding of being raised in a village of Southern women, I have come to make Black women the subject of my work. Not exclusively, but primarily, because we deserve it.
Agreed. We can clap for that, y'all. I agree, and I think that I was wondering if you might speak a little bit about about becoming itself, and the works that were shown there, and then we will talk about some of the women that have supported your career. But I see, as you're seeing behind us, some images from the exhibitions, and you're also seeing some examples in the room here. On the right-hand side, or your left, and as well as just outside of the salon is one of your beautiful tambourine works. I was wondering if you might just briefly tell us a little bit about these series that appeared in that first show.
The exhibition at MoAD gave me, provided an opportunity to experiment. So I created my first tambourine installation. And I've been working with tambourines now for over a decade. The tambourine is an instrument that I grew up playing. I'm a product of the Black church. I come from a lineage of church musicians. My grandmother was a pianist and a choir director. My great-grandmother was a choir director and an organist. So I'm very much steeped in that tradition, but also a larger tradition of Black music, ranging from the blues, the depths of the blues, and the apex of gospel. So I started using the tambourine. It's material from my culture, but it's also rooted in cultures around the globe, so it speaks to our common humanity. The piece that's outside, just beyond the glass partition, is from a series of that I call Freedom Songs, which is based on civil rights music, civil rights anthems, A Change is Going to Come, We Shall Overcome, all the music that was sung during the civil rights movement to inspire, to cohere, to give courage, especially when activists were arrested.
And so thinking about that lineage that you just pointed to, this lineage of church, of being of your grandmother, of the women in your family, I want to honor this sort of intergenerational care, this advocacy of Black women, particularly in the Bay Area. I'm wondering if you might name them.
Oh, yes, because they are in the house. Mildred Howard, I want us all. Yes. So as I described my, as I mentioned, my education in Los Angeles, there were no Black professors in the art program. So I had to seek out examples. And Mildred Howard had an exhibition at the California African American Museum, a memory garden, and this was before I met her, but that was my introduction to Mildred. So, to Mildred's work. So I moved to the Bay Area and read that she was teaching at Stanford. And I showed up at Stanford, and she was sitting in the gallery, and can you talk a little bit about?
I was one of the architects of the Institute for Diversity
Yes.
in the Arts. And so I worked with a group of students to develop that program, along with Brenda Aoki, Taj Mahal's daughter, Aya Leon, and one other person. But this was a class that I was teaching at Stanford, and I had them making things. What was that? Was that 20 years ago?
It was a long time ago, Mildred.
20 years ago or more. It was when I think cultural diversity was in. That was the
Multiculturalism. Yes,
multiculturalism is in. And so I had a group of students who I had working with found objects and recycled material. They couldn't use anything except for maybe pencil or a few things, but everything had to be recycled. And that's where I was walking down the stairs after the opening, and Lava came up to me and said, "I want to know you." And the only reason, I didn't know her, but she had on a bad outfit. Okay, she's okay.
We had a mutual friend / acquaintance, your friend, but yeah, Raymond Saunders. And I invited Mildred to lunch, and I fried corn. And we've been friends ever since. Now, Mildred did not have to take me under her wing, but she did. and she introduced me to Lizzetta LeFalle Collins, who chose me to be the inaugural artist for MoAD's Change of Mission, which I dearly appreciate. And from that time, my career, and I don't want to call it a career, because being an artist is a life.
Mm-hmm.
We breathe it. Let's not eat it, though, because it'll make us sick, but we think it, we breathe it, we live it. If we're fortunate, it can sustain us financially, but that is not the reason why we do it. We do it because we have to.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
We do it because there isn't anything else that fulfills us in the way that creating art does. And I feel extremely privileged to be on this artist's path and to have had mentors like Mildred to introduce me to the Bay Area art world. And it takes someone to do that, because your education won't, especially in a place where there aren't professors that look like you.
Yeah, yes. And you'd also mentioned Denise Bradley, who was a former director at MoAD, and I wondered if you might say a little bit about her, and then also you wanted me to make sure that we spoke about Cheryl.
Cheryl! I'm going to talk about Denise a little later.
Okay.
But there you are, Cheryl Ward. So I had a studio in the Mission on, I think it was 16th or 17th, and I had an open studio, and there were hair portraits and prints of hair, and Cheryl walked in, and she was mesmerized. And from, is that inaccurate? Yes. And we became friends, and Cheryl has been a supporter since that day. Yes. A supporter, an advocate, and just a dear friend. And even though this is a program that's uplifting Black women and Black women's labor, Black women's creative labor, Black women's intellectual labor, I also have to mention her husband, Charles. So thank you both.
Well, it's really it's interesting. I guess it's not unsurprising that it's women that have been a large amount of support, because in museums, by and large, percentage-wise, the workers are women, except when you get to the top at directors, then the demographic shift. But thinking, I wondered if you might speak a little bit about, because what I'm struck by is how this legacy of receiving mentorship has translated into you mentoring. And so I wondered if you might speak about how some of these relationships have taught you to be a mentor, and some of the folks that you have mentored, or maybe some of the people that have really transformed you through the relationship of you mentoring them.
What Mildred's mentorship showed me was that once you reach a certain point, it's important to, once I reach a certain point, it's my responsibility to pay that forward. Because my success really wouldn't have happened any other way. My success is wholly dependent on the relationships that, and I don't want to say that I've built, but the relationships that have come into my life over the past decades. Now, yes, I put in the work. That's the baseline. The baseline is putting in the work. But beyond that, someone has to be interested in what you're doing. Someone has to care about what you're doing, and someone has to believe that what you have to say is important. Yes. No matter how you as an individual artist feel about the work, our work is dependent on the advocacy and the validation of other people. That's just how it works. Of institutions, of organizations, and each step of the way, each rung of the ladder that you climb, especially as Black folks, it's important to grab somebody's hand who is deserving, and when I say deserving, I mean someone who has also put in the work, to grab someone's hand and show them how you got there. And I was fortunate that that was done for me. Yeah. And I don't have any illusions about the genius artist. That's a joke. Okay? It is. You can be genius, but that's not going to be the only thing that gets you there.
No. I mean, part of that mentorship is also the exchange, talking about the work, thinking about it, digging in, and deciding where the boundaries are for you, what moves, what doesn't, and when. And so I think that's a really beautiful thing. And I have also been the recipient of that kind of mentorship. Like, I wouldn't be sitting before you today if Elizabeth Alexander hadn't taken an interest in whatever nerdy thing I was talking about that day. And so I think that I want us to maybe push this out a little bit and think about, especially in this moment, and looking at what MoAD has done across generations and the challenges that these institutions are facing now. Not that you have to have an answer, like a full answer, but thinking about what is the importance now and where should we maybe be aiming, or our intention, given what's surrounding us at the moment.
Well, we all know that this is a sad state of affairs that we're in, globally, nationally, and locally, especially with the arts.
Yes.
CCA just closed, or will be closing next year. SFAI closed.
Yes.
Mills is no longer Mills. And so the infrastructure for drawing talent, young intellect,
yes,
new ideas, fresh ideas, is disappearing.
Yes. Yeah. And it's how do we draw folks here and keep them here, because it is, yes, the schools, but also Contemporary Jewish Museum, the Never Open Mexican Museum, things moving into other models. So thinking about, from your position, what do you think that young artists need from a place like MoAD now?
Exhibition opportunities, mentorship, financial assistance, to be a part of the MoAD family. I think that's incredibly important, especially now. I also think that beyond what artists need, the larger community has to understand that they need us. I don't like to always come from a place of need. Because what I and other artists are offering will save your souls. It's interesting because last night at Fog, it's the big party and really fun and all that. And I had several conversations with folks who were describing how they felt guilty having a good time. And I remember last year during Fog, it was just after the inauguration, and I was literally in a deep depression. And I didn't go to Fog last year because of that. But we see that the aims of this administration and the federal government is to destroy people like us, to destroy us by any means necessary. And taking away our joy, which is free, is not an option. And it's the way that we've survived in this country for centuries. Our culture saves us. And our culture is a model. It's a global model. Our culture is stolen, appropriated globally.
Yes.
Everybody wants what we have, but they don't want to be us.
Yes. As my mother would say, they want all the rhythm and none of the blues.
Exactly. So, what artists possess, what artists create, what artists share is beyond anything that tech can provide in this place. And I am afraid that the Bay Area will become even more of a right-wing tech bro playground. And we have to make sure that that doesn't happen.
Right on. Right on. And thinking about sort of, I've been thinking about this place as a beacon, you, Mildred, all of the artists as beacons in the city, and wondering or thinking about how I prepare this space to receive, right? So it isn't about a scarcity model. It's really more about how can we prepare space for what is necessary to solidify. Listen, I've gone off on a tangent. But so I think that I am hoping to think about how our institutional memory, these memories that you're being for, can be pushed out so they don't become static. One thing that I love about MoAD is that it is a living institution, that we get to live with Lava's work from the beginning until now. And so I'm wondering if there are other spaces in the city that you have experienced that give some of that. So MoAD is a beacon, but there are others. And so I want to invite you to maybe speak to a few of those.
There's no place like MoAD.
I know there's no place like MoAD.
There, when I'm not out and about, or when I'm not, I have a moody teenager at home, so when I'm not, home holding down the fort there, I'm in the studio, head down. So I can't really speak to
Okay, yes.
a lot of other places. I can speak to people who feed me creatively, intellectually, but yeah, you'll have to ask somebody else that.
No worries, not a problem. So I would like to get back to thinking about your engagements with MoAD. So you've had the opportunity also to witness multiple of MoAD's directors.
Yes.
Including Monetta White, who is now MoAD's longest standing director in MoAD's history. Oh,
that's incredible.
And so wondering how you've witnessed the change under different stewards of this institution. how things have shifted.
MoAD is now on a global stage thanks to MoAD. Thanks to Monetta. Which I appreciate, and MoAD should be on the world stage. MoAD is one of the centers of Black culture, well, certainly in the Bay Area, but for the world.
Yes. So yes, our new mission is to place the art and artists of the African diaspora at the center of the global contemporary conversation, right? So the blueprint, not for contemporary African art, not for contemporary African American art, but for contemporary art writ large, right? So placing it very much at the center, which is where your work should absolutely be.
Thank you.
Of course. I mean, you already know that. I want to, just as a sort of rounding out before we open it up for some additional questions, I wanted to talk specifically about, when I look at your drawing practice, I think about the care that you dote, the individual line. And so to me, that is a metaphor for kind of these constellations of care that you're speaking about that have been supportive of your career. And I'm wondering about how care fits into your practice as a whole. You've said a little bit about it, but I wonder if you could say it really directly.
I'm very intentional in the studio, and the individuals that I am representing in my portraits and drawings deserve the level of care that I bring to them. My work is very painstaking and slow. Every line is drawn with utmost precision, as you can see in the portrait there. And these are, speaking about that series, Mugshot Portraits, Women of the Montgomery Bus Boycott, these are women that initiated the Montgomery Bus Boycott, but when we think of the leader of the Montgomery Bus Boycott, we automatically think of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and we think of Rosa Parks. We don't think of the women who were behind that act of civil disobedience because we don't know about them. Because history has omitted their stories. And it's important that, for me, it's important that I set the record straight. Because women, and Black women in particular, have labored for such a long time in this country and elsewhere without recognition, without our histories being told. And so the level of care and reverence that I bring to the work is to make sure that they are remembered in the way that they deserve, especially because they changed the course of this country. And if it were not for them, there would not have been a Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. leading the civil rights movement. And that's the story that we need to remember. In this country, we have a habit of valorizing single individuals. But let's not forget the thousands of women who walked, most of which were domestic workers. The women who cooked and raised money so that the boycott could be sustained over the period of time that it took. Those kinds of actions and that kind of labor happens all the time. Unremarkable.
Yes, it makes me think of, I'm a historian of photography, and the exceptional Black figure is repeated over and over. Frederick Douglass, Sojourner Truth, Harriet Tubman, all worthy of all of the accolades, all of the research. But there are thousands of images of everyday Black people languishing in the archives that become either unnoticed or become the backdrop for that exceptional figure or the emblem of a period in time. So in my own practice, I look at photographs of unknown sitters that are overtly decaying in order to think about what life still, why does that still beckon us? What are we still pursuing? And in history, often they'll say, if you don't have a name, you don't have anything, you can't pursue it, and I disagree. And so what I love about your work is this pursuit of those wayward lives, to go by Saidiya Hartman, those lives that had been sort of through sociological language written out, described as the domestic, which then hid so many other lives. So I think what's so beautiful about your work and also about this conversation is beneath every single layer of what happens in this institution or what happens in your work is this humanity.
Thank you for that.
No, I appreciate you for it. And so we're going to maybe pull into our home stretch because I know these folks have a lot of questions for you. And if you have been at FOG, you should definitely check out Jessica Silverman's booth where you can see beautiful installation of one of your arrays of tambourines, as well as going to the gallery. These never want to stay on. But I wanted to close out by asking you, Lava, how do you want to be remembered?
I don't think about that. I don't think actively, how do I want to be remembered? What I do is make work that I hope is worthy of remembering. No, let me take that back. I make work that I insist that's worthy of remembering. I don't think of myself per se, but I do think of I think of the legacy of my work. And I also think of what I need to do as an artist in order to make sure that happens. And so, Mildred, you can speak to archives. I'm not at that point yet.
And the only reason I asked is because someone asked me where my papers were going, and I said, into a fire.
When I started off, when I became a professional artist, I guess 50 years ago, but I've been making art all my life, I saved everything. And going through my files, I found things from the 60s, and I didn't even know in the 60s that I was going to end up doing what I'm doing now. I knew what I liked to do, but I saved everything. I mean, I have cards from other artists, I have letters, I have notes, I have love letters. I mean, all of those things are a part of my archives and there'll be an announcement sometime in the spring of where my papers are going, but they can't make it now. So I know that I had over 28,000 documents.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
So save everything.
Yes.
Yeah. And try to keep it organized in the beginning, because it'll save you later on. About, I guess, 10 or 15 years ago, I got a Joan Mitchell Award. I was part of their pilot project to see what it takes to get artists' archives. And now Joan Mitchell has a book that you can get online that will show you how to do that.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you. So I think we're going to turn it over to the audience, but I just had one last question in thinking about what you're working on now.
It's a secret.
Oh, you just swat me at every turn. I don't think about that, Keisha.
My solo show opens at Jessica Silverman this September, so you'll just have to stay tuned.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you. With that, I'd like to turn it over to the audience for questions. Going up front.
Thank you. I love your art, Lava, and you as a person. My son has been an artist since he was 2 years old, and now he's 24 and has a full-time job doing graphic design. So I'm going to ask you a question I asked him when he was home for the holidays, and that is, how has AI affected you as an artist, and how do you think the ability to render art by giving a prompt to a computer will affect the art world? That may seem a little out of left field, but I am curious.
Because my work is so hands-on, I don't think about AI replacing anything that I could ever do. And because I'm so self-involved as an artist, I don't really consider ways that AI might replace creative individuals. I don't think that, for me, it doesn't have the capacity to do what I do. And so I think as an artist, that is how you have to be thinking. Like, how can I approach my practice in a way that AI just doesn't have a chance to replicate it? AI isn't the end-all, be-all. It is a tool, and it can be a useful tool, but it doesn't have the ability to replace the hand, and it doesn't have the ability to replace the human intellect. It can aid, but it can't replace.
Well, you'd be happy to know my son said pretty much the same thing, not as eloquently, but as a digital native, it's no replacement for the human mind and hand.
Mm-hmm.
So, Lava, first I'd like to thank you for your work. Thank you for being here tonight, and thank you for you. Now, my question is, what do you do when you're in that studio, painstakingly working, and the flow stops flowing? Or does it ever stop flowing?
I am incredibly grateful that I get to do the thing that I was put on this planet to do. When I am drawing, and this happens drawing, I would say, exclusively. I do other things, and I've been drawing since I was a kid. So there's always a feeling of gratitude that I get to do the thing that I found that I loved to do as a child, that I get to do it professionally, and that I get to share it with other people. Now, sometimes I might hit a wall with ideas, but then I can go read. Then I can look at other work. I don't hit a wall. Like I said, I feel incredibly great. I know why I exist, and I am doing that thing. So there's no wall. There is really only gratitude. Look, I get to spend the night with you guys. There isn't anything better, honestly.
Well, the gentleman who asked the question before me actually took the topic that I was going to ask you about, which was navigating your way through the valley, because I know sometimes, even in life in general, we have these valleys. Instead, I'll just share the comment that I had. Some of the most profound conversations and experiences I have been sitting on the front porch with my great aunts in a small town in South Carolina, snapping peas and having heartfelt conversations where they imparted their knowledge to me. And I appreciate this moment as witnessing a front porch conversation in a lot of ways. It feels very beautiful. So, in alignment with what was asked about what can we do, what can we supply now that these institutions are closing, and we're, what do we do when we're getting the academy outside the academy? I think these front porch moments are so beautiful and valuable. So thank you for this experience.
I love that description so much. Thank you.
Hello, hi, thank you so much for the talk. It was so lovely to hear you talk about your experience with mentors and also your background. I myself also graduated from CCA in undergrad and did not have any Black women professors in undergrad and grad school. And I was wondering, what does it take to have a healthy reciprocal relationship as a Black mentor to Black women, and what are you looking for in your mentees to have it be like a successful relationship?
The way that I mentor young Black women is I hire them as studio assistants. They spend time essentially learning how to be a professional artist by doing all of the tasks that I assign for them. I'm strict and I demand excellence because that's the baseline. And if you can keep up with me, then you have an entree into the world that I inhabit. Now, everybody doesn't make the cut, because quite frankly, I can't take someone by the hand and teach them if they don't have the desire, the drive, the intellect, the creativity, and the I'll do whatever it takes attitude, because that's what it takes. And unfortunately, what I have seen in my now emerging eldership status is that young folks have a sense of entitlement. I heard someone out there go, ooh. Young folks have a sense of entitlement. And part of that is also because of social media, because you can become an influencer, whatever. I'm not a digital native. I dip into social media because I have to as an artist. But when I was growing up, it was, you have to be twice as good. Now, there's pushback against that, and I agree, because why should we have to be twice as good? But the fact is that we do have to be twice as good, and now we know we can be 5 times as good, and it doesn't matter. When you look at what has happened in the employment sector to professional Black women with multiple degrees, it doesn't matter how good you are. So that's another conversation altogether. But for me to choose to mentor someone, they have to want it really badly, and they have to prove to me through their work ethic that they're worth my time. But I employ young Black women, but the field is very different now than it was 10 years ago. Yeah.
Thank you, Lava, Key, for...
Where are you? Oh, there
I'm
you
right
are.
here.
Okay.
Always such a beautiful time in this space, in this building. You always have great curatorial experiences for the, for the world, really. As I listen to you, share intellect, your wisdom, who you are, I can't help but feel like I'm also listening to Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, sadly, who lost her son recently. But my question and wonder is if there's, any plans, thoughts, given this current administration and what's happening, on how much more we can use storytelling, the arts, culture, to really expand upon a sense of belonging, where, immigration and separation, displacement is involved, in particular for African immigrants. That's something that I really hope to see a whole lot more of, and just wonder what your thoughts are on that, even as an American.
All of our stories are important, and the goal of this administration is to erase our stories. So it's important that we write them. It's important that we keep archives. It's important that we create and leave physical material behind. It's also important that we think about how to preserve that material, because we can't rely on institutions to do that any longer at all. Yes, we must write our own stories and preserve them.
Hello.
Hello.
So I'm going back to the mentor conversation because I'm an educator and I mentor, and I'm struggling with something with the generation. I want to say I've noticed it for the past 7 years of mentees putting time in just to burn bridges. And I'm talking about like studio assistants, internships, and this could be LA, because I'm talking about the LA art world here. But as a professor, I'm trying to teach them in school, look out for each other, don't sit there and watch them do something wrong when you know the instructions, help them out, like we're a team, let's work together. Yeah. On the art side, I hire people as assistants, young, Black, paid very well. I support this, I'm so excited, I love this, will quit, not talk to you, ghost you. And I teach them, here's the proper way to leave, here's the proper way to elevate. And I'm struggling on both ends, like to teach my students who are very like instant gratification. I don't really need you, I just need the paper, I don't care, I can do whatever I want. And then like the weirdness of like performing sometimes for years, that they're invested in something when it's okay if you're not, if you just want to get paid, but also like why would you leave after 7 years with no notice, like, and ghost and block and the avoidance, and I'm struggling with how to trust people, and especially my students, and I don't know where it's coming from. I don't know the generational theory behind it. What are your thoughts?
Just don't. It sounds cold-blooded. It sounds cold-blooded, but the field that we're currently in, I'm from LA, so a little bit of that mentality, like the Bay Area is a kind of warmer, gentler, kinder place, and that's real. But the best way that I can describe it is that there's almost just a lack of home training. I'm sorry. Okay, I'm just going to call it the way that I see it. The values that I have are not values that I learned in school. And let's be honest, we are all in a profession that is highly competitive. And someone can come and visit you in your studio, and if you're not careful, you'll see your ideas in their work. That's just real. And in a place like Los Angeles, which is even more competitive than than I would say the Bay Area is, I just think it's going to be really hard to find young folks that you can really trust. That's just, I'm sorry. Now, and I'm saying that as a person who does hire young black folks, but sometimes I hire people who have no intention of going into the art world. That's sort of safest for me, because I don't want to see my ideas expressed in their work at some point. I don't want to feel like my practice is being extracted for their purposes. And this is just real. And I know and I won't say that I know, because I'm not an educator. I'm invited to be a visiting artist. I give lectures, but I don't have the capacity or the desire to be in the classroom. Otherwise, I wouldn't have a viable practice. I just wouldn't. And that's something that I know about myself. I believe that being, and especially what you're describing as the kind of educator that you are and the kind of employer that you are, you're incredibly generous. And you have, you trust that what you are imparting will be respected, but it's not being respected, so stop. Like I said, I know it sounds cold-blooded, but stop looking at me. What is that? What I'm thinking of a biblical term, like throwing your pearls before the swine, you know, is that thing. You have to be really careful, and you have to be discerning, because not everyone is deserving of what you have to offer. And this is real. It's just, you know, I've been hurt, I've been burned. It's hurtful. And this is one of the reasons why I love Mildred so much, because Mildred, you didn't have to do anything, but you did. Okay, you did. The responsibility is there, but not everybody is deserving, and so you have to, you know, pick and choose, and just expect folks to be flaky. And I do think it is generational. Like I was going to say, the values that I have about generosity, paying it forward, the responsibility, I learned that from the women that raised me. I learned that in the community that made me. I learned that from, I'm talking about, you know, my great-grandmother. I'm talking about Southern women who had to rely on each other to survive. Like care, this lineage of care, it was part of the culture. And it was the part of the culture that allowed us to be who we are today. And that is something that I find is really missing, like that grounding, that foundation. And in LA, everybody's trying to get famous, you know, in 5 minutes.
Hello. Hi, I'm Nicole Bradford. Something that you said really caught my attention, because like when you talked about home training, like I grew up with the exact same home training. And there was this period of time where I think that, where I think we are now is that everyone's really clear that no one's coming to save us. And so I wonder if the factors that shaped us and shaped our parents, where it was really clear how things were, if that might come back into play. Because I noticed like my heart hurt a little bit, this idea about not trusting young people. But I also wonder, you know, if like the clarity that no one is coming to save us might sort of reassert the community fabric that we kind of lost track of. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that as an artist, because you create things, but you also are metabolizing from the field. And
Yeah.
so I'd like to know what the field has told you.
I've been thinking about this since the first administration. Think about the Obama administration. Like, Obama's presidency was the crowning achievement of the civil rights movement. The crowning achievement of what we think of as an integrated society. We had a beautiful black man and black woman and black family in the White House, a symbol of racial progress in this country. Well, then what happened? So the goals of the civil rights movement, integration, being able to go to school with white folks, being able to live where white folks are, joining corporate, the institutions, all those things. Yes, those doors were opened, and now those doors are swinging shut faster than ever, making your head spin. Folks are losing their jobs left and right. Higher education, God help us. We have to depend on each other. Depending on each other is the only way that we survive, and I've probably said that 5 times tonight. No one is coming to save us. We must save ourselves. We must, or else we won't get through these very dark times. And we must save ourselves with our souls intact. And that means relying on each other, not for physical need, but for emotional connection. I had another place to be tonight, but I wanted to be here with my family. I wanted to be here with folks who look like me. Last night was fun, but how many of us did we see? Come on. Since we're counting, look, I looked at all of the photographs who's the photographer, drew what's his name? You know who I'm talking about, okay. There were 857 people in the photographs. I kept scrolling through looking for black folks. We need us now more than ever. Now more than ever. So if it means that we look at Reconstruction, when we built our own institutions, when we had our own businesses. I grew up in a black neighborhood. My doctor was black. My dentist was black. The pharmacist around the corner was black, who had the store where we bought the penny candy after school. I didn't enter into the white world until I got to college. My world was black, and I'm a biracial person, okay? That's what we have to do, because, if the allies are out there, fine, but you can't even depend on the allies. We have to depend on each other. I didn't think I'd be saying all this tonight, but
Good evening. Good evening, everyone. Monetta, thank you for creating this beautiful space for us. And my name is Malia Cohen. I'm one of the statewide electeds here in the state of California. I'm the state controller.
Yes!
Thank you. I didn't say all that for the applause, but I do thank you for recognizing how important it is for public servants to be diverse and inclusive. I brought my 5-year-old daughter here, who is an artist, although she's more intrigued with the phone right now. Might be for the best, so we can concentrate. Oh, here she is. Okay. So this is Madison, and she's an artist. But in my profession, I work with public finance, and I work with the economy, right? California is the 5th largest economy in the world, very, very wealthy. And I wanted to hear a little bit about how the intersection, or the intersectionality of how the economy ebbs and flows, how it supports or doesn't support artists like you, like Mildred. And also I'm thinking about public art spaces. The city and county of San Francisco is a phenomenal public art program where they contract and they commission pieces to be placed everywhere, on every corner, and they've done a very good job of that. But this is economics that's driving it. And I just want to you've made a living out of this. And we know about the proverbial starving artist. And that, to me, in my mind, is still connected to the economy. So share with me a little of your thoughts on that. Thank you.
I am going to be honest in this conversation. If I had to pay my mortgage, pay for my child's private school, pay for my car, and all of my living expenses on what I personally make as an artist, I would not be able to do it. And that is a fact. I am married to a man who is extremely supportive of my career, and what I make sustains my career in that I can pay my studio expenses, I can pay for all of my materials, I can hire assistants based on collectors and institutions acquiring my work. I'm with a gallery that sells. They're always in selling mode, and I'm extremely grateful for that. My gallerist works really hard for her artist, which I appreciate, and I'm at a price point now where if I sell a work, it will pay my studio rent for a year. Awesome. If I sell another work, it will pay for 2 studio assistants for a year. But I am not living on the sales of my work. And so artists have to figure, and I don't teach. So teaching is a way that artists live in addition to selling their work. But it's a rare artist that can, and they're out there, they're the ones that are selling their works for millions of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars. I mean, they exist in, I won't say fairly large numbers, but they exist in large enough numbers to be the model that every artist wants to be. But it's really unrealistic to think that your average person, and here's the other thing, coming out of, if you go to an independent art school, that's the same price as a Stanford education. Art school is incredibly expensive. So you graduate and you graduate with debt and you have no real marketable skills.
Do they teach?
No. No.
She anticipated my question, but my question was, do they teach you the business side of art? Do they teach you?
If they told the truth, in art schools about what the real economics are, students would leave in droves. And these schools, many of them are dependent on tuition, so they're not going to tell the truth.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes.
Do you have any more questions? One more question.
Well, on the subject of money, how do you feel about your work being resold? And you know how in auction?
I'm not at that level.
Well, but do you think artists should have a percentage?
Yes, of
somehow?
Course. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't, I think that it's, I'm trying to think of the right word here. When a collector invests in me and acquires my work, I hope that it's because they really connect with the work and they care about the message that my work carries. I would be really sad if a collector were buying my work on speculation, but it happens. But I firmly believe that artists should receive royalties on resale. Yeah.
Reagan got rid of that. At one time we did, if it was resold, you would get a certain percent. At one time, California had a law where if someone bought your work and it was resold, then you got a certain percentage over the price that they originally paid. But Reagan, who people think was so wonderful, did that.
Wow.
Whew. Yes, yes. So I feel like what I've learned this evening is a lot about the importance of community, the elusive nature of community as well. But this was fantastic. Don't you all agree? Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, yes, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Lava Thomas. So everyone, before you go, I'd like to remind you that the surveys on your chairs are what help us keep the museum alive with rich programming. Your support means everything to an institution of our size. Another excellent way to support our mission is by donating what you can. If you enjoy what we do and want to see us more often and want to be a part of our community, then we encourage you to become a member of MoAD. Join us and be a part of a community of brilliant thought and work by Black artists from across the diaspora. I hope you've enjoyed the talk this evening. We have enjoyed having you and look forward to seeing you here again. I'd like to thank again our sponsors, Common Spirit Health, Gilead Sciences, Salesforce, Cadogan Tate, CSAA, and KHR McNeely Family Foundation for making this and other public programs possible. Their support brings great artists and speakers to our salon for talks like this one. Visit our website to see the calendar of upcoming events that we have all throughout Black History Month. Please help yourself to more refreshments if we have them. And with many thanks from us here at the Museum of the African Diaspora, we wish you a beautiful night. Thank you again.